You run your mill with the same kind of skill that's been passed through your family to you. You're the kind of a man who likes to work with his hands. Beechnut's the tobacco you chew. Beechnut's the tobacco you chew, and it's been that way, father and son, for a long time. Beechnut's smoother, moister, more delicious. Try it. Yeah, Beechnut's the tobacco you chew.
This is the place where the work gets done. Work, that's the measure of a man. This is the home of America's best. This is Red Man Land. It's a place where strength is forged in molten steel and the spirit of pride runs free. It's a nation filled with men who make this land everything it was meant to be. This is the place where the work gets done. Work, that's the measure of a man. This is the home of America's best. This is the home of America's best. This is Red Man Land.
Please be seated. The show is about to start.
Distancing ourselves from the enemy. Think we've got a method of a remedy. It's hard at times, but we'll make it, yeah. Traveling on our own down the boulevard, surrounded by shadows hiding in the dark. It's hard at times, but we fight it, yeah, we fight it, yeah. We don't believe in what we started. All our plans are crashing down. We gotta try to make it through this. It's too late to turn around. We don't believe in what we started. All our plans are crashing down. We gotta try to make it through this. It's too late to turn around. Distancing ourselves from the enemy. Now they've taken hearts and broken everything. It's hard at times. Can we change it? Can we change it? We don't believe in what we started. All our plans are crashing down. We gotta try to make it through this. It's too late to turn around. We don't believe in what we started. All our plans are crashing
Yes, I'm excited! Townies, you got Ric Flair, the captain of the team, behind you. Learn to love it. Diamonds are forever.
Hello and welcome to the 22nd episode of Pop Culture. I'm your host, 24 Eyes the Titan, and I am joined by the amazing Amanda B. How are you this evening?
I am doing well. Hope everybody else is well as well. Yeah,
I hope so. I think I got a lot of great stuff going on in there as well, so I'm pretty stoked. We have two amazing guests this evening. Both have really cool properties. Pretty cool guys that do some pretty interesting stuff. The first goes by American Discord, which is confusing because his name is Shelby, and his book is Ragetality. The one and only Shelby Robertson. How are you, sir?
Good. Eating some cookies. I never eat on stream, guys.
Never.
Don't judge. I never eat on stream.
What kind of cookies there?
My daughter is Nutter Butters. She leaves them out. I have to eat them.
Yeah, Nutter Butters you call cookies?
Well, you know.
I wouldn't call Nutter
It's a cookie. It's a cookie. It's got, it's like an Oreo, but not.
Oh, those are, okay. I was thinking like
not. Oh, Nola wafers. No.
Yeah. Well, what do they call those? They call those Nutty Buddies, don't they? Those are Nutter Butters or something like that.
Nutter Butters. Yeah, this is a Nabisco treat.
Well, we have one more guest that joined the panel with us today to go over this great week in pop culture, and that's the one and only Matthew Simecek. How are you, sir, this evening?
Hey, what's happening?
Hey.
You know, what I want to really know is how much money do you think they paid Johnny Cash to do that voiceover for that tobacco thing? Because
I don't know.
Back in the day, it was a shitload.
I didn't tell you this. I miss when the evil corporations of America weren't like pharmaceutical companies that are like trying to give you a different kind of medication every day for whatever thing that happens to you, but like was just the tobacco companies espousing American like values.
The good old days when they just we inflicted it on ourselves, right?
Yeah, I mean, but at least it was all pro working man. See that commercial? Like it was all like, yeah, like we're out here doing stuff.
Totally. Yeah.
What do they call like the Marlboro Miles and the Marlboro Bucks, or you know how they used to give like little points or something on the.
They had Camel Dollars and Marlboro Miles, and there's a bunch of different.
Yeah, and you could like turn them in for branded merchandise.
You know, it's people do it, right? People collect that kind of stuff. If you put little things that can cut out on the side of a cigarette package, they would cut them out and they would mail them in and get shit for it, right? I mean, people do that stuff.
See, I feel like they should have just went to a sticker system. They should have just had a peel off sticker. Why do I always have to cut things out of these?
That's how I got my Image Comics number 0 back in the day.
Is it?
Yeah. The first Image Comics that came out, they had an insert that you had to cut out of the book. So essentially it was making you buy 2 of each book. You had to buy like the whole run of every book that came out, and then you sent it in, and then 3 or 4 years later you got your 0 issue that was 16 pages with 2 Todd McFarlane pinups in it.
Well, it makes you, it does make you kind of wonder, like that, those kind of gimmicks, were they? Isn't it an indicator that they were all show? Right, that they were just capitalizing on the momentum of Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane and Liefeld, or was it just a cool idea they came up with? Because I think it's the first.
I mean, if I can figure out a way to make people buy 2 copies of everything I do, I'd probably do it as a capitalist side of me.
Right,
I mean,
totally, nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that's what it was, but yeah, I don't recall exactly what the all of my copies got cut out, so I got multiples of that 0 book. But the sad thing is, today, 30 years later, you can get that 0 issue on eBay for about $3 plus $4 ship.
That's how it is.
The shipping costs more than the book. Yeah.
You never know what's going to really, in the long term, turn out to be a collectible or not.
Right.
I mean, maybe some people do, but I don't.
Well, on the plus side, also the book is the first appearance of Todd McFarlane's Freak character, which might make an appearance in the movie coming out. So it might turn out to be a hidden gem, you know, something people overlook.
The question is, how many of those issue zeros exist in the world? Do you think there's a zillion, or do you think there's only like
six figures for sure? Yeah, because I remember at the studio there were cases of them when I went to work at Extreme.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because that's
how mad were you when you went to work Extreme and just like there's cases of these things, and I sent him a whole run like.
Oh, I it wasn't even on my radar. There was so much. Like
Shelby was stuffing his pockets when he left. About.
Yeah. Yeah, I would visit Eric Stevenson's office a lot when he was gone.
So when did you work there?
I started there in 1994. 94. I quit. Let's see. A few years. I moved home, and then I quit working for Rob altogether. Around, and then he contacted me again around 2014. Around 2014, and that's when I did the Youngblood stuff, and then I inked half of this book too, the Deadpool Bad Blood book.
Oh wow!
So I did some art finishes and some inks.
What's he like, Rob Liefeld? I have no idea. Like personality wise,
it's a loaded question. He's very good with fans. He's really good with his fans nowadays. Yeah.
Because people are different. they handle stress different, and they also because sometimes people have a lot of stress, they'll take it out on.
Rob was in his 20s when Image started. So I will say that I don't think, you know, hindsight's golden. He wasn't ready to run a company. Sure. But I also can say that me in my 40s, I don't know that I'd be ready to run a company. So I don't know, you know. Yeah. So I think as far as like Image Comics as a whole, I think the only two people that came out ahead as much as they possibly could would be financially, Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane. They're the only two that actually I feel like did it right. There was a lot of opportunity missed, I think, for a lot of creators over there. Eric Larson had a huge opportunity, just as much as Rob, in my opinion, to like create something really cool and do like a cool company thing. And instead he decided to just hire freelancers that are clones of John Byrne and stuff, the kinds of artists that big names, but the people buying Image books weren't buying it because it was a John Byrne. They're buying it because it was a Wizard top 10, you know, push X-Men artist, you know, current artist, not 80s artist. So yeah, there's, you know, and also, I mean, no one really talks about this. Del Keown's Pit was on a trajectory to outsell Spawn. It was just,
I believe it.
It was skyrocketing, and it never stopped. And and that's the same thing. Keown, he had other interests with music and stuff that took a lot of time away from this book. So you would only get a book every 4 months or 6 months, and people kind of, for a monthly, when you're going to the shop 2 or 3 times a month, it's a little bit of a turnoff when you're never seeing your favorite artist putting anything out, you know.
You know, if somebody told me, and I'm not saying I know, but if somebody told me that when you're that young and you have a big book like Pit or something that's massive, that the stress is really big, and you know, unless you are like a army workhorse, you're gonna seek relief, whatever that is, whether it's not doing it for a while and playing your guitar or whatever it is, you know. So I can't imagine it's easy, but you know, Pit is, to me, I never really got into Image, but Pit was one of the best, maybe the best thing that I can think of that came out of, because Spawn was really cool. The Jim Lee stuff I didn't really get into, and the Darkness with the Silvestri was really cool, but you know.
Yeah, it all kind of depends on what kind of material, you were interested in.
That's probably true.
Top Cow pumped out the in my opinion, these are just my opinions. Top Cow produced some of the best artists, but also they were pretty consistent with getting stuff out. They weren't. I don't recall them being like super late on a lot of projects. But they had the best colorists for every studio in comics, like overall in the comic book industry at the time. They were king. They were the king of colors, and they were just destroying. Nothing Extreme or nothing Wildstorm did could compete with Top Cow's coloring department. They came close, but it wasn't.
In that era, that time period, and I'm not exact, but there people who started doing the coloring in Photoshop. And I remember there was this period where you're like, whoa, what the fuck is that? Right? The colors were just jumping off the page. And they were going from flat colors to hyper-dimensional. And you're probably right. Somebody figured it out way ahead,
Yeah. I think, Steve Oliff was kind of doing that on Akira in the 80s. Those reprint issues when he was coloring those. So Oliff, and then Oliff went on to color Spawn, like the first so many issues. Yeah, but no, a lot of good things came out. A lot of good things came out of Image Comics being formed. I'm not so sure digital coloring would have been commercially accepted or explored if they didn't create Image, because Marvel and DC only took those steps on the coattails of Image founders pushing there, because Image, the whole thing was not only are we the biggest artists from these companies, we're going to make books that look better than the previous books we just been working on.
Well, there's another factor involved in that too. You're probably right, because I'm guessing that the people that work at Marvel, they have a huge network of artists working on getting one book out. So like, if you have a guy that's been doing the old school coloring for the last 20 years, and he's got contracts, and who knows, maybe a union involved somewhere, and maybe he's part of the printing aspect. Change is going to be tough.
Yeah, contracts were a big deal back then. On the innovator side though, I would say Top Cow really pushed the envelope, and they were taking traditional painters like Steve Furcow, where they were really, really good, like dry brush artists, like acrylic painters and stuff. And they came over and were figuring out the computer. So they were applying their knowledge of traditional arts and applying it to digital. And that's why they were excelling as well, because a lot of computer colorists were just either color guide artists trying to transition over, or they were just people who don't know what they're doing and had computer knowledge of Adobe Photoshop. And so they're like, oh, Photoshop, you're hired, you're going to be a colorist now. And then the studios at the time, this doesn't exist anymore right now, but they used to have a color guide colorist who essentially would be a photocopy of a page that they would color with anything. It could be watercolors. Most of them were using the Prismacolor art markers. Like they had, hundreds of the grade colors. And they would color this in this photocopy that they would print, or sometimes they print it on a nicer stock than just a standard photocopy, because it's gonna go through the ringer with wet media, right? So that piece would go back to the coloring department in-house, and then it would literally just get clipped, and then the computer colorist would be looking at that back and forth, like as a guide for what they're doing on the digital file.
That is, that's how it was.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, it doesn't exist now, but that's kind of how the coloring studios operated, at least at Extreme. I know Top Cow was a little different because they had more actual artists in there,
In my experience, because I've had my background was in post-production, so I've done like animation, 3D, 2D, all this stuff, and it's the same thing happens where you would go, they have graphic tools in the studio that you're working, but some guy's working on it who's not an artist, and he's making the bullet points. He's making things that slide. They go, they slide, they go, right? And you're like, so the second they got someone like me in there, where like you could, like you're a creative person, so you're like, you're like, I could do that way better. The technical side I got to learn, but you know what though, you can't teach a person how to be an artist. That's a whole thing that you either you want to do it or you don't. Right. And so yeah, this is exactly the same thing. Once you get an artist who can visualize while they're working, then there you go. Right. Yeah, you can ramp it up and get the most out of that tool that you possibly can. But it also takes like things like, obviously, as an artist, I'm sure that you also do this when you like the day you saw Mark Silvestri or something, his work, and you go, oh yeah, I never even thought about doing that. Right. The way that they handle everything and the way they draw and they ink. That's a big deal too. You start copying off of each other,
Yeah. Yeah, I actually have a theory about that with artists today. It seems like comic book artwork in particular, it's become very like hyper detailed, right? Like super detailed. Everything you see on the shelf is it's either very, very open or it's rendered to the point where even the originals look insane. And what I think is that kids, like when you're 13, 14, whatnot, you're learning how to draw out of printed books, right? So we're drawing on 11 by 17 boards. And if you're already like an insane artist, like a Travis Trey or like an old school Platt, whatever it be, you're learning how to draw off of a reduced version of that artwork, right? So I think a lot of kids, they're looking at the scale and they're learning to draw at the scale that they're looking at for like faces and stuff. So then by the time they're drawing on an original page, it's actually kind of downscaled to what the original was originally and what it is that they were heavily influenced by. So it's almost like you're going macro, macro.
Yeah, you're thinking you don't realize that he drew it as a large thing, and it's printed like this, and so you think that's what I got to get. That's a big deal. I mean, for me, it's always been like a thing where when I started, when I was going to do Shadowpunk, I realized at some point, I can't. For my whole life, I was like, I can't draw like Jim Lee. At least I can't do it now. And somewhere between 18 and my current date, I realized that's bullshit. Because who the hell wants another Jim Lee? The world doesn't need one more copy of another great artist, right? They need a cool thing that you're going to make that's you. So once I realized that somewhere along the way, I said, I'm going to do my own thing and see what I can come up with. And it's also, it's good to learn to copy the masters because that's the role of an artist. That's what they always did. But at a certain point, you break off and you go, I'm going to do my own thing.
Yeah. That's most artists I know, they start off as a little bit of a clone of another artist. That's kind of how they learned and broke in. And then, eventually they figure out what kinds of lines they prefer using. They decide whether or not they want to go more photorealistic, more cartoony, things like that. And then they kind of develop from there. Now, whether or not it becomes popular or marketable, that's another question. Because
that's a big question.
It's all relative, But a really good example would be Jay Lee is one. If you look at his artwork today and you look at it in 1992, it's completely different.
Yep.
Yeah, and another one, actually one more extreme would be Scotty Young. Scotty Young's work now is totally cartoony. He did all those Marvel covers, the little chibi kid versions of them, right? But when he broke in, he was literally a Jim Lee clone. Like it looked like Jim Lee's work.
Really?
Yeah. So he got hired in on the one and then flipped it at some point.
Well, you know, the problem with being a commercial artist of any sort is that you don't know if people like your style, right? So let's just say Jack Kirby's a good example. Okay, Jack Kirby was a cock of the walk for a billion years. But at some point, you know, when Jim Lee's show up in the world, the George Perez shows up, they don't really want Jack Kirby right now, right? It's almost like music. It's the same with music, right? We don't want that stuff from back then. We want the new thing. And you get bumped, and, you know, then you come back, obviously. But, you know, it is a tricky thing because if people don't like your style, that's half the book. Story and style, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think there's just things that happen in your life as an artist, right? I think that you have the opportunities that appear for you. So if like you have a style, maybe your style never picks up when you're doing it, but some kid like finds your stuff, they like it, whatever, and they just have some kind of little bit different personality flair, and they're able to sell what you weren't able to sell. And it's, you know, pretty much the same thing.
That is very true. And, you know, it's funny when you analyze artwork from people, you know, it really is like 90%. If you have a completed artwork of Jay Lee now, if you shifted it 10%, it would kind of suck, right? But the 10% makes it awesome. And that's to your point. Like it's just, some people see different things. They walk in and they pick up on it.
Very much so. Gentlemen, this is Pop Culture. We like to talk about everything pop culture. And one of the things we like to do to start off the week to get happy is because you never know where the conversation can lead with it within the week is the pop birthdays. So we're going to go through the pop birthdays real quick, and then we're going to pop into what's going on during this week.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Happy birthday to
Did you use that one last week there, 24? That one's
No, that's a new one. That one rendered out today. It worked out like it was supposed to.
Yeah.
I was excited about some of these birthdays. Mila Kunis, I mean, she's one of my favorite people.
Well, I was going to say happy birthday to Ed Norton, my favorite Hulk, and also to the rest of the reptilians.
Christian Slater did well. You know, he was a good movie actor. Matthew Perry was good back in the day. John Stamos kept me entertained as a child. Steve Carell hasn't offended me currently, so I'm hoping that stays that way because I like a lot of his movies, but I feel like he might be one of those guys that'll flip on us.
Oh yeah, he's flipped. He's just pretending not to be.
Madonna, I'm on the same boat as Norm Macdonald. I think that she's a whore and she should die. And I don't want to hear any more opinions from her or have any more like protests or weird things where she shows off her body or something.
She's a freakazoid, big time. The second she said Kabbalah about 15, 20 years ago, it was over. She's captured, her brain is captured in whatever the heck she's doing, you know.
I mean, her son is her adopted son or whatever, where in her opinion, where his dress is better than her. So she's got a lot of issues going on right now.
That's tough. That's a tough.
I just know that she tried to molest Jose Canseco. That wasn't cool.
I mean, she tried to get. I mean, I think she got a hold of Vanilla Ice as well.
Really?
She's got an interesting run.
Yeah, there's an interview with Jose on YouTube where he actually talks about it. He talks about him meeting her, and he was late to the game that same day. Yeah, in Anaheim.
Because she wouldn't let him go.
He tells you the whole thing. He's a pretty honest guy. Like he'll tell you, you know, he's like, yeah, I still do steroids. Like he doesn't really care.
Well, I mean, at this point, I mean, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, he's got a car wash, and he does like free signatures if you get like the ultra wash and stuff. Like he seems like super chill.
Way to upsell.
Yeah. He shot off his own finger, cleaning his gun out. Like he'll tell you all the stupid shit he's done. Yeah.
That's the only way to do it, right? Just own your stupidity.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you just spend your life in shame. Right.
Yeah.
We already have enough of that.
I mean, that's the way to do it, right? Though, is to buy the car washes and stuff to actually put that money up. And yeah, I mean, signing. I mean, I would be there signing, making sure cars are just pouring through that bitch every day.
I worked at a car wash in high school and college, and that's not an easy job. I know it looks like it's easy, but in the winter when it's cold and you're soaked to the bone and it's freezing, that's tough.
You know, they never made a car wash movie where it was wintertime. I feel like that's a buddy movie. They should bring back the buddy comedy, and they should that would be a possible one, like wintertime car wash, like escapades.
I mean, you know, there's a lot of characters that come through car washes, and they are okay. So you're like, I would be on the button, right? So I would bring a person up, and I would say, so far, I say, put your car in neutral. Right. And so some people don't know what that word means. And what happens is they start driving through the car wash. And sometimes there's a car like on the other side of those washing flippy things. Right. I mean, you're going to hit them. Right. So, and some people don't speak English. And you're like, this is going to be problematic. Some people have Jaguars. Yeah. Jaguars are super low to the ground. And the second you drive on that little slot that your wheel's in, is your whole car gets hung up and locked in there, right? Because the suspension is too low. You got to back up everybody in the line. But yeah, it was an experience, because in the winter we would wash like 600 cars in like 6 or 7 hours, right? And we would just crank them through. And the guy I work for was a super cool guy, but he's like, you can see he's like, keep going, guys. and we're like, in the winter, you're soaked. No matter what you do, and we have like waders on. And by the time the day's done, your feet are wet, right? The water just slowly creeps down your legs, you know, so. Anyway.
You must have been in a pretty big city doing that if you had that many cars, huh?
It's, we're just outside of Detroit, so it's on a big, famous boulevard. So yeah, there's quite a bit of people.
Yeah, I only know about the one in Breaking Bad. Actually, that's the one that I stay. Anytime I do the Albuquerque Comic Con, I stay at the hotel caddy corner from it.
Oh wow!
I didn't know that. So before I watched the show, even a guy I brought out there with me, he was like, "Hey, dude, I'll help you with the show." So we get out, and he kind of looks around, and then he looks across the street. He goes, "Dude, I think this is where the firefight was in Breaking Bad." And I go, "What?" And he goes, yeah, like over here. So when we went to check in, he asked the receptionist, and she goes, "Yeah, they tore out all my freaking flowers up here too." And she was showing us all the damage that the camera guys did to, like, where I guess she had flowers inset, and they like destroyed all the planters because they had to set up for the angles upstairs. Yeah, but anyways, yeah.
Pretty amazing. Well, we always like to talk about what's going on this week in pop culture. So August 13th this week in pop culture, Miss Amanda B.
In 1997, South Park aired for the first time on Comedy Central. And in 2013, Google Incorporated suffered an outage for 5 minutes. All of its services, including Google Search, YouTube, and Google Drive, experienced this outage. During that brief window, the world's internet traffic dropped by a monstrous 40%.
That's pretty Titanic. I couldn't imagine such a situation. But you know, like 2013, I wasn't aware of the internet as much. I was still in the Marine Corps. Like I just didn't. I don't know. It was not like on the radar as much. You know, there's a lot of stuff that I pretty much picked up like after I got out.
That's nice. Though. That's nice that you could stay away from it.
I guess. I mean, it ended up like, you know, becoming like the world now anyways. And like children have meltdowns over like things. Like we used to get upset if we like missed a cartoon and it wouldn't air again. These kids get mad about a digital fucking like whatever costume that they might not be able to buy for, I don't know, 10 months or something. I don't know, whatever ridiculous thing it is that costs you hundreds of dollars a day, like for them to play.
Don't you sometimes go, you're so happy that you grew up when you did?
Oh yeah. No. We have all the best cartoons. Like we have storylines. Like there was actual story. Like there was like, people had things that they lost or won. There was like real things on the line. We had all the best entertainment. Like, and if you go on YouTube now, like I still think it's all like the best stuff. Like I watch retro stuff. I've been going through like my kids' stuff and watching what they're watching. And as soon as I find something weird or funny or like out of order, I'm just like, it's done. You're watching Street Sharks or Ninja Turtles or something else that like I know doesn't have any of these weird messages in it or something stupid that I need to explain to you that I shouldn't have to explain to you.
Well, you want to talk about something weird because I know you got this. You're going to cue this video up, and we can talk about this later. I watched the Sandman series. I mean, they would. I mean, 100 years ago, they'd hang you from a tree by putting this stuff on television because the global agendas were flying everywhere, right? And not to mention at the end of the whole thing, it's like a super corny wrap up, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, not only it's just like injury to insult in a way,
Well, it's what it is now we've become a participation trophy society, like 100%. And it's no longer about quality of like character or content that you create or like becoming something of like a great knowledge, like some kind of step or whatever. It's not about earning the title. It's about just getting the title, checking the box. Do we have an Asian, whatever? Do we have a black whatever? Do we have a Hispanic whatever? Do we have someone of this personage in this job field? No. Oh, well, we got to make sure we put that person in there, whether they're qualified or not, whether, you know what I mean? Instead of like becoming an inspirational thing. Because it makes me mad because I hear people talk about this. Oh, this person became president. Now people believe they can be president. Like, well, what about the hundreds of people before that guy became president that did all the other government positions for like decades before there was like all this acceptance and ease of like, of ability to do this kinds of things. So like, I just feel like it's a participation thing. It's like, do we have all the check boxes filled? Okay, then we go with it. It doesn't matter if you're competent or not. It's just like, do you fill the box?
Well, that's probably totally true. I mean, but their other component in that is the fact that if they say on television, well, I feel comfortable now that this person's president, so I can be a president someday. If you put that idea out there, people will then adopt it as their own idea.
Yeah,
and that's freaky.
This is true. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like a psyop. That's what I'm saying. Like they act like there's some every year there's something, and it's so obnoxious. Like the guy from Marvel that was saying, like about being an Asian actor and doing some kind of big time movie. And I'm like, what about Jackie Chan, Sonny Chi? But like, what about all the predecessors to you up to this point? What about the two Asian guys that just did the Magnum PI reboot or whatever that were top Asian actors? Like, you're just going to sit there and shit on every single person that came, even if they came 10 minutes before you. It's just, they don't exist. I'm the new number one.
Well, that I don't know what the word is, that victimhood, that I'm overcoming this victimhood thing right now. I'm going to be the first Asian, whatever. That sells to people for some bizarre psycho reason. And you're like, yeah, there was a guy called Bruce Lee, and everybody loved him.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. These things, you're ridiculous.
Yeah. And the thing is too, you got narcissists get promoted straight to the top in Hollywood. So I think it's kind of a byproduct of that as well. Hot button topics, they're going to push it, anything to get the eyes on them.
You kind of wonder, at some level, are you glad that you're not I know this is crazy, but if you were like filthy rich, that attracts certain things to your life, right? Where like certain people will now pay attention to you, certain offers will be made to you, certain things will be expected of you, and you're like, some level, I'm like, screw that. Who wants fame?
I would be off the grid, to be honest. I have no
So,
interest in having rich neighbors and living in like a well-known neighborhood. You know, I could care less about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
So y'all can send me your money.
Yeah, rich neighbors
Back
know,
Shelby's
but like,
book.
you know, a couple of generators, like giant diesel generators that you can run off of like propane or something, as opposed to, you know,
When I say off the
big
grid, I mean like somewhere with internet and electricity.
Oh,
but,
no,
you know,
that's what I'm saying. Like I would take all that money and I'd be burying propane tanks. I would have like 30 years worth of propane buried in the ground. You know what I mean? Like to run an entire house in operation.
yeah, I'd find a, you know, a 2,200 square foot home somewhere, enough room for my comic collection, kids, and a refrigerator.
You don't want to have several penthouses like Johnny Depp, like penthouse A.
No, dude, because it's too much. It's hard to clean where we're at now. You know, the cleaning part. I'd rather spend time drawing than cleaning. You know.
Well, that's why you have all those penthouses. You don't clean anything. You just go from you just leave it dirty.
Keep moving around.
Hire someone else
Or
to clean it.
I'd be scared to live in a cabin because of all the fires. It seemed like they're always going on. I have an aunt and uncle who lost a cabin in a fire up in is up there towards Oregon.
Oh wow.
There are certain parts of states that burn every year, and I'm like, why did we build houses here? Like, how did this become a thing? Or like areas where there are sinkholes and stuff, and they're like every 75 years the sinkhole activates and like 30 houses just get swallowed. Or we're like, oh, we'll just build more houses on top of it. Who cares?
Yeah.
Well, I will
you like
say,
how the wildfires like magically stop at the Canadian border too? That's always cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't stop asking so many questions. Stop pointing out so many things. Just accept that things are bad and that you need somebody to help you fix them. But you know, the thing about Michigan, the people, if you don't live here, you don't know. There are really no natural disasters. So you don't have the ocean or the mountains, right? But there's going to be no wildfires. Once in a blue moon, there might be tornadoes or something, but you know.
I mean, technically, both Michigan and Ohio could get hit by a hurricane if it came off the ocean and went into the lakes.
Oh, I'm sure it could. But,
technically.
But you know, probability-wise, you know, so far so good.
Yeah. We're doing all right. I mean, I'm from Ohio originally. Ohio, Michigan are pretty cool. Parts of PA are right. Indiana's a cunt. I don't know how the fuck how those people are so close to us and so shitty. Like how they're so terrible. I'm not a fan of Indiana or their cops there. They like to give veterans and active duty military like tickets, like just and like the ad tickets. They're like, oh yeah, a seatbelt there. I'm gonna give you a speeding. You know what I mean? Like, there's like, what else can I add here to like make your day terrible?
You know what? When I was a kid, I remember even when I was like in my 20s, I was like, you know, the cops, they're just doing what they're told. They're really good. Now I just think, you know what? Get the fuck out of my face.
You know, I don't know. It's a weird thing. It depends on what city you're in. My city, we only have like 40% of the police force we're supposed to have. So while I don't want to fuck with them because the 40% that are around are serious, like they're serious motherfuckers, but so you don't want to play with them. Like you can get beat up around here. But at the same time, man, like I kind of understand when there's like you're only 40%, like, and you have to deal with an entire city of like 300,000 people. Like, there's only so much shit you're gonna put up with.
That's a good point. Because there are times you need them, but you know there is this heavy-handed aspect to them now.
Yeah.
And I can sort of see the point that people never liked them, that they were pulling shit on people.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not a fan. I just want them to exist. Like I know that they need to exist. I just don't want them in my business as much as possible.
Right.
Like I try to avoid cops in all aspects. I don't want to get pulled over, even for like a friendly ticket or a warning ticket. I don't want no attention from cops whatsoever.
It's a good way to go.
Well, you can just move to a city like mine where people drive horribly, and there's constantly road accidents all over the city nonstop. So it doesn't matter how many police they hire, they're always at a traffic accident. Yeah, I'm not kidding about this. And then at night, it's you got you got meth addicts having samurai fights at a Popeye's Chicken.
I was gonna ask you, like, do you guys have a good trauma center there with all the wrecks?
There's like two. Yeah, there's like two. It's always ridiculous. It's always ridiculous. I went in there with the ear infection once, and there's some guys that got jumped, and the guys that jumped them came in because they got hurt somewhere else doing something else. Like
that's amazing.
Bizarre.
Everybody that beat everybody's up is all in one spot.
Yeah, they ended up in there for a different reason. Yeah, the police are there writing it up. It's funny.
Were they trading words, giving evil glares?
Oh, they kept them apart. Yeah, they got pointed out. But yeah, if you guys ever want to see be entertained on Twitter, you can follow What's Up Tucson. It's literally just What's Up Tucson. And there's also another one. It's TMZ Tucson, like TMZ, that stupid TV show.
Yeah.
And they literally all day long, dude, they post actual stuff submitted to them that happened that day, and it's
a lot.
It's glorious if you like to stay home, but it's terrifying knowing that you got to go out in public.
I've seen you share some of the Twitter stuff.
Isn't this kind of why Cops, the show back in the day, was so successful? Because there were so many aspects of it that were interesting, but when you sat back and thought about it, that outside your door things are fucking crazy, right? People are doing shit, and they're human beings, and they're stuck in these great kill grids that we live in, right? Kind of, and but then you turn on Cops, and I'm like, look at this asshole, fucking get him, right? So it's that reversal of your psyche that says this is bad.
You just reminded me the other night we were watching an episode, and it was during the housing boom. And I kid you not, there was 2-3 episodes in a row that was 100% people stealing stuff from construction sites and stealing stuff from residential, fixer-uppers, bandsaws, tools, electrical equipment. Yeah, and every single person, it was like a traffic stop or a traffic violation, and then they get them, and it's all stolen stuff in the trunk. It's like, dude.
They do. I think they used to do theme shows where they would do that, right? They would show.
Oh, would they? Okay. Yeah. I was looking at the year. It's like, housing boom. Okay, that's why. It was just people stealing bandsaws. Every other car had a bandsaw on it.
There was one episode that sticks out to me, and it's because of human nature. And these cops, this black guy's on the front of his house, and he's on the other side of the fence. And the cops roll up, and they ask him, you look like the guy that they said stole the thing. And the guy has a cigarette, and the cigarette is hanging off his lip, and it's and the guy's just sitting there he's gonna fucking take off, right? Because he's guilty. This is the guy, and the look on his face is he's making this face I'm not doing nothing. I'm not doing nothing. And the cigarette keeps getting lower. Then all of a sudden he's takes off, right? And it's the human nature aspect of the show always intrigued me. You're that's a kind of thing,
I mean, don't you? I mean, my favorite version of a cop show has to be Steven Seagal, Lawman. Oh my god! Oh, I love when he talks to the people in the patronizing way with the accent that he just adopts wherever he's at. He just has a new accent every couple of years. You ever notice that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had a whole Louisiana accent, and then he went into how he would train the cops, and then he would do these little in-between segments where he would show off his marksmanship, and he shot at the tip of a Q-tip off, and he blew out a match without taking the head off and all that kind of stuff.
People are strange, aren't they? I mean, sometimes you would go why? Why spend your time doing that stuff, Steven? But Steven I'm sure he has a great reason as to why he spends his time doing that stuff, right? So
supposedly he's 25. Yeah, supposedly he was a police officer for the last 25 years, and we just didn't know it. While he was doing movie careers, he was also out there volunteer policeman.
it kind of reminds me of like Elvis being like a member of the CIA or something, right? Where like you like, and he's a black belt too. You're just like, you know, you're one thing, but you're trying to convey to people that you're another thing, right?
Oh, I mean, he did die in kind of an odd way. Just saying.
Oh, Elvis? Oh,
Yeah.
totally. What I heard was that I know that's a bad phrase to use when you say something like this, but what I had heard is that he was the person that his doctor was connected. He was on the CIA radar for quite a long time, and you know, I know that people have a hard time wrapping their heads around what I'm going to say next, but these people, you remember the War of the Worlds radio show?
Yeah.
Where people went ape shit when they heard it and they ran out in the streets. And so at that point, the government decided, well, gee, what else can we do? And how can we create events to traumatize and control what people think, right? So one theory is that I know that the Manson murders are connected to the CIA because there were people around Manson that were involved, that were totally connected before and after.
So you're gonna into all that MK Ultra stuff.
Yeah, but like for example, in the Haight-Ashbury area, there was a clinic run by this guy named Jolly West, and they were involved in giving people LSD and seeing what they could get them to do.
Yeah, so, I know some Vietnam vets that told me about like the when they got back that they dosed a bunch of them with LSD, like a bunch of veterans with it.
Really?
Yeah, a bunch of Vietnam cats.
I'm telling you, man, it's hard for people to wrap their head around that you would really do that kind of stuff to people, but do
people not remember the videos of us testing nuclear bombs and having soldiers sitting out there crisscross applesauce waiting for that thing to blow up in front of them?
Totally. I mean, when I was younger, I never would believe it. So I understand why people are reluctant to grasp it, right?
Well, they bury all that. They bury all the two-headed, three-limbed babies from the 60s and early 70s, you know, even though they were happening all over.
I believe it. Yeah. I mean, but
all that info.
But you do have to stop and wonder what else is going on, right? I mean, and, you know, I don't even think your imagination has to work too hard to figure out, you know, that things are not, a lot of things are controlled events. Like one thing this Jolly West guy had worked on was, could you get people to commit crimes and then and later on they don't know that they even did it, right? So could you have Amanda go shoot up her neighbor and then go sit down and not even remember that it happened? And they figured out they could do it.
Only if they offer her bacon vodka.
Bacon vodka is the key.
I heard from someone that's not very good.
Man, you would think that all things bacon would be amazing. I know when bacon was popular, when they were doing the bacon kick, and it was one of the breakfast places. Denny's, I think, had like the bacon shake, like a milkshake with bacon.
Gross!
In it.
Yeah, I remember.
Wait, was it bacon flavored?
It had bacon bits in it, like there was.
It was blended. Yeah, they would throw 2 strips of bacon in it and blend it.
That's just crazy. I've seen those heart attack hamburgers, and they'll put like stacks of bacon on top of.
And they like boil them in lard and stuff, like Crisco or some shit. They make sure that one place, I think there's like a place in California called like Heart Attack or something. If you weigh a certain amount, they give you like free fries or something. Like if you're like already at a coronary, like here, go ahead and have some more fries and die at a restaurant.
That's crazy.
Yeah, there was a restaurant I went to with a lot of the extreme guys down in Anaheim. It's not open anymore, but it was called Belial's. Like Belial, like the devil.
Right.
And when you went in, all their plates were they were named after the sins, right? And I remember whatever it is what I ordered, they brought it out, and this plate was huge. It was like this. It was like two persons' shoulders length wide of a plate. And then they bring you your soda, and your soda's like almost like when you get those the bottomless margaritas in Las Vegas, where they're giant and have the giant straw. It's like that. So you have to like put the thing down next to you to drink it, you know, and then put it back up. And the whole thing with that place was gluttony. So when you're going home, you have like 2 bags leftovers of like what was left on the plate. It was ridiculous.
You couldn't afford to do that restaurant in today's climate right now. Like, fuck, you take a family to KFC and it's like $50. I was like, $50. My parents, like the prices I pay for like gas and stuff would have had a fucking coronary if they had to pay anywhere near $50 for something that was like not at least a buffet of some sort. And like back when buffets were really good, not like they are now, like Golden Corral's like complete horseshit. Like when Ponderosa was popular and they had like the unlimited shrimp and steaks, like you just go in there and eat until.
So you know what's crazy right now, at least down here, it's cheaper for us to eat it somewhere like Olive Garden than it is to eat it like a McDonald's. And I know that sounds funny,
That is
but
crazy.
it's weird how that is now. Yeah, I'll order for both of them and then maybe one small thing for myself, like through a drive-through. That's like $27-$28. I'm like, the hell?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm lucky about is that my lady likes to order more shit than she's ever gonna eat, and she only eats like a little bit bird, but she wants like 20 things. So I don't have to order anything. I just finish whatever it is, like, what are we having? You know, that's why I just pull up. Like, what did you order? I guess because that's what I'm eating.
That's cool.
Yeah, it just works out. She, you know, it encourages her to eat, and you know, I you know, no left that we don't have any problems there. The kids, man, I'm telling you though, it's a nightmare to order stuff like outside of like a Happy Meal. It's murder. It's murderous on a pocketbook. And if you were to have like a traditional Catholic family and have like 12 kids right now, I couldn't imagine your McDonald's bill would have to be $150 every time you went through the drive-thru.
Oh, sure.
And I remember when people were freaking out about meals going to like $4, like combo meals being $4, and then being like $6, and then being like $8, and now they're like $17 a piece for Burger King.
Yeah, that's wild.
Well, I stopped eating a fast food like 15 years ago or something. By the way, when I do eat it in a blue moon or something, I'm like, this stuff is like, oh, right? You really miss it because it's so, what's the word, luscious or something. But I try to stick to just. I had to stop eating, drinking caffeine, even, and that was super hard because I love caffeine, right? I mean, as an artist, you want to be going all the time, right? And it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, Mo, Olive Garden, it's a authentic Italian restaurant, isn't it? It's
Olive Garden, Carrabba's. What is it?
You guys remember a few years ago, Taco Bell won Best Mexican in the United States?
Did you remember that?
Really? Yeah, the restaurant won the Best Mexican restaurant. And it's like, really?
You know what's something you don't understand as a kid till you get out and you travel the U.S. more is that there's like regional places. And so you sit there and think that like this place, it looks really nice. It's got a professional menu. It has the same kind of setup like a McDonald's, you know what I mean? Like where it looks like a national thing. And then you like move somewhere else. You're like, where's this restaurant? And they're like, we don't have one. We've never heard of that. But why? Why doesn't it exist here? When
we lived in Phoenix, we were across from the Cardinal Stadium, and there was a place down the street, which was a Mexican restaurant. It was owned by a white guy, but all the employees were like chefs and stuff, like 100% authentic, like grandma's kitchen, like straight out of Mexico. And his restaurant won 2 years in a row for the best Philly cheesesteak. I'm not kidding about this. No. His Mexican restaurant won best Philly cheesesteak in Arizona, and then it won the USA Today National for the entire North America Philly cheesesteak. And it's this little hole in the wall Mexican restaurant that we used to go and get burritos from.
But you know, the guy must have hired
And
like
it was
people to
weird.
care.
He had all that, and then he had a Chicago dog and a Philly cheesesteak. Like that was the other two options.
Maybe there's
if he
just
didn't
the
want-
two things that he liked or
Yeah.
something, like the two things he wanted in his restaurant. Like,
Yeah, he had the awards up, and I was like looking, and I was like, wait, and we're kind of laughing about it. We're like Philly cheesesteak, and it's like Los Patos, like everything is like Hispanic, and I was like, oh, Philly cheesesteak, huh?
We
And I was
have
like,
one of
oh, is
those
it like
places.
a fusion? Like a fusion food? And he's
Mhm.
like, nah, it's authentic.
No, no.
He goes, I make them. I come in and make them. I'm like, all right.
he's like, I'm the Philly guy. I do the two authentic
I'm the
things.
Philly king. He needs like a crown.
I mean, I don't know. There was things like okay, potato chips, man. There's in Ohio and like in a couple of different areas, we have Mike Sells and Grippos. Those don't. I'm in Washington now. We don't have Mike Sells and Grippos in Washington, and like there's one of the two chip brands I miss desperately. Grippos have the best barbecue chips on the fucking planet,
Watch out,
hands
man.
down.
I mean, once you get a good barbecue chip in your hands, like the bag is gone, and you
Yeah.
are gaining weight as you speak.
Oh, dude, you can buy them by the box off of Amazon, and it's a literal box. Like it's like a plastic bag inside of a
wow.
cardboard box that they just fill to the top with chips and then tie
Don't
off.
tell me that, because I'm going to actually think about buying it now.
You're Googling as we speak.
Seriously.
Other regional dishes are interesting. Like I wish there was a restaurant like in every state that just did that. They just switched out like a buffet that switched out like regional foods that you didn't know other states had. That you didn't even know. Like a lot of people don't know that like in Ohio, people will put like cinnamon or chili, like cinnamon in the chili or like jelly in their chili. Or like the cheese conies with the spaghetti on them and stuff. Like we were like, what spaghetti? I'm like, but have you ate it? You got to eat it. Once you eat it, then you understand. Like it sounds weird, but then you have spaghetti on a hot dog, and all of a sudden, it's amazing.
I found out the hard way in New Mexico that I had to, every time I ordered, I had to ask them to hold the green chili.
Yeah.
Because every plate they brought me had a cover, like fully covered edge to edge with green chili on it. It didn't matter what I ordered, it was just smothered. And I was
This is
like, why?
in Mexico?
They don't do that in Arizona, and it doesn't make sense to me. No, I got to hate it now. I actually hate green chili now because of Albuquerque.
I was gonna say Albuquerque is famous for those hash chilies, man. That's like one of the biggest.
Yeah, no.
The jerky and everything is huge there.
I like small. You know, it's like in small portions, like family. I like small portions of family. I don't want to be covered in it. You know, it gets old real quick.
You know what's crazy is the burrito culture in California. If you're in San Diego, you're living fat. You get up towards LA, and them cheap bastards cut that burrito by like a third of the size. It's like nowhere near the same size, same price, same damn price, not the same size burrito. Yeah, now you get like sandbag size burritos in San Diego. Like they fill you up. Like those are
Most of them here, $7 will get you like a 3 or a 5 pounder. Here.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because there's so many places that have it that it's competitive almost. You know, it's like when you find a good spot, you just go there. You just go to that one place.
Once you find your burrito spot, you just get that one burrito.
And the word gets around. They want their customers. You know.
We had one on the Marine Corps base. It was right outside. It was so fucking perfect. Right outside the gate that I was closest to. The Iribertos, and they're 24 hours a day, and they had a drive-through. Perfect. Oh my god! You come out of field training, eat one of those. I mean, it would just your stomach wouldn't survive the situation, but you would be very happy momentarily until start kicking your ass.
Yeah. No, Mo saying 5 pounder, 95% rice. No,
like a lot of beef and like maybe some.
It's usually like I mean, it depends. Sometimes they do too much potato, to be honest.
Right,
like you get like the California or the breakfast. But no, not rice. It's not like that.
No, I hate that. That potato thing drives me nuts. The too many fries is ridiculous in a burrito. You stop that.
Yeah. There was some spot we went to. They were using tater tots. I got her thing, and she goes, "What is this?" And like she cracked it open, and it was like 2 rows of like a sushi roll looking, but it was like tater tots.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, look at the filler of a tater tot. Like, how much space does a tater tot take? It is, you know, what I mean, you can only put so many into a burrito. So if you're doing the 5-pounder setup, like, yeah, you're just a little bit of that, some tomatillo in there. You know, what I mean, you're a little bit of your cheaper fillers.
Yeah, I do the chorizo and egg. Sometimes it depends on the restaurant. Like, I've already figured out which ones use too much potato. Like, if they know you're like, I'm like a little bit of potato. I'm like, Paquito, Papas Paquito.
Oh my goodness. Well, I don't think we're going to get through all of this week in our pop culture thing, but I do think that we are at the hour mark. This is where we like to take a little break and let everybody have the opportunity to stretch their legs in the panel, refresh their drinks, and use the restroom. So we hit the button on the retro time machine. This gives you about 6 minutes. You can either sit here and enjoy it, or you can go and refresh your beverages. But we will be back here in 6 minutes.
Ay, 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 ay. I am the Frito Bandido. I like Fritos corn chips. I love them, I do. I want Fritos corn chips. I'll get them from you.
Hey, how about a nice Hawaiian punch?
Sure.
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
Let's find out. 1, 2, 3.
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? The world may never know.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it.
Mamma mia, that's some species. Cut spicy meatballs, Jack. Sorry. Take 28. Out, Tony, and action. Mamma mia, that's a spicy meatball. Cut. What was the matter with that? The accent. Huh. Cut. Cut. Micey, micey, ballsy, ballsy. Cut.
Take 59.
And action.
Sometimes you eat more than you should. And when it's spicy besides, Mamma Mia, do you need Alka-Seltzer?
Sooner or later, you're going to try a white owl. And when you do, we gotcha.
Bert, what do you say to Martini and Rossi?
Yes. Yes. To Martini and Rossi on the rocks. Say yes.
Yeah.
Let Moxie Marco in your face. Don't be so won't.
Salute you women for having babies, because let's face it, if men had babies, there wouldn't be any. That's right. Then guys have to have that thing once a month. That'd be a drag, huh, fellas? Imagine carrying a tampon in your wallet. The Kotex wouldn't fit, would it? Either he's having his period or he's one rich son of a bitch out there. Make it hell on pickpockets, wouldn't it? Guys have to call in sick for work. Hey, Vern. I ain't gonna be able to haul that lumber for you today. I'm flowing. I'm on the hot water bottle right now. Marge, would you just leave me alone, goddammit? So I went to the Phoenix Zoo. You guys been to the zoo lately? Been 120 degrees and everything? Think the animals have pretty much lost their killer instinct? The polar bear's got a look on his face like, hey, beats Alaska. Eat a couple marshmallows, wave to a couple kids, call it a day.
To all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Say that again. To all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. To all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, onions, pickles, onions. To all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun.
McDonald's Big Mac. The great big sandwich with a great big taste.
Hold the pickle, hold the lettuce, special orders don't upset us. All we ask is that you let us serve it your way.
9 Lives presents Morris.
The castle's almost finished, Your Majesty.
Good. Reserve the dungeon for yourself.
Mr. Whipple, please don't squeeze the Charmin.
Hey, you two been married 3 months. How come Ned isn't housebroken yet?
Oh, I've tried, Rosie. I have a knack for spilling.
Who hasn't the knack in this place? That's why I switched to Bounty paper towels. They absorb faster than any other leading brand. Bounty's the quicker picker-upper.
Oh, it's not nice to fool Mother Nature.
New Coast Deodorant Soap. A crisp, exhilarating scent and handfuls of bubbly lather combine to tingle your senses. It makes you feel more than clean. It actually brings you back to life. Refreshing Coast. An eye-opening experience.
Wow, do I feel good today?
How are you getting to work today?
Backstroke.
Bring yourself back to life. New Coast Deodorant Soap. The eye-opener.
I love that stuff. And the Frito Bandito needs to come back. I'm sorry, ladies. You need to bring back the Frito Bandito. I feel like I want to see like there's a guy that does the Mighty Mascots book, right? And I would love just to see like the dark side of that, like all the characters that like were considered like racist at some point and they got banned. And so like just the storyline of all those guys just getting together and creating like a Legion of Doom because they were the outcasted mascots. Racist mascots have lives too, people. You need to care for them just as much.
You know, in that those commercials, they played the Cashapp one where they had the anticipation music.
Yeah.
SNL had an old skit that was they were drinking water from Lake Erie. And so when they poured the water out of the bottle, it was so thick of shit. They played that music and it went that slow. That's when they used to be pretty good, SNL.
Oh my goodness. Oh, they had competition. I think when you have healthy competition, especially Canadian competition, I feel like Canada has lost all their comedians because they've gotten censored. And like if you say some kind of joke or something, you might get a fine.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, it's like ridiculous. I've seen like 5 or 6 comedians that have like gotten ridiculous fines from Canada. So I think since we don't have like an SCTV, you know, we don't have John Candy's, we don't have like Rick Moranis's, we don't have these like actors from Canada coming in here and like shaking things up in the same way. It's just, you're not, you know, it's sad time.
You do have to wonder if it's going to come back because people are so sick of that shit, right? And the obvious niche is there to do it, right? If you can do it, people will actually seek you out.
Yeah, whatever streaming service decides to make that a priority and bring in the Chappelle and you know whoever else. I don't even know who's doing comedy that's not afraid of being canceled, but
Chappelle and Joe Rogan are like the only 2 comedians that aren't cancelable, probably, like completely.
Yeah, I don't think he really cares about comedy the way he says he does, though.
No, I'm just saying, like, on the ability, like, money-wise, like, anything, like, you could do to hurt them or, like, just botch them or take away, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you'd have to be financially stable, where you could be okay not getting more gigs.
Because like even Bill Burr walks the line. I mean, he stands up to a certain extent, but I mean, even Bill Burr walks the line, and his comedy is far like if you watch his new special, not nearly as like edgy as it was maybe like 15 years ago.
Well, but nowadays it's not even financial, right? So if you get out of line, all that has to happen is that girl that Dave Chappelle slept with 4 years ago has a different story now. Now his whole life is in court, right? Shit like that. They can pull that kind of crap easy.
Yeah, well, I mean, thank God for the Johnny Depps out there, right? The one dude that was like, you know what, I'm gonna stand up. Like I made odd choices my entire career to protect my integrity as whatever. Still made a fuck ton of money, make a star. Like
my favorite part of that is how he's completely the victim, and if you're somehow supporting him, you're an asshole. That's my favorite part about that whole thing. It's such a double standard.
I when I watched the trial, I honestly didn't like either one of them, and I did think she was a liar. But I remember thinking, Johnny Depp, he's a poster child for I'm a walking fuck up.
And he was forever.
And a person that was clear-minded would have had a better chance of seeing this ahead of time, right? Because she's so much younger than he is.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that he's Johnny movie star or whatever, so he's going to get what he wants. But there's a reason why you don't date women half your age, right? I mean, it doesn't work, especially in today's world, So I just remember thinking.
See, that's what I know. When you go back to 1975, right? Like where, like, if you widowed, then you could marry like a 30-year-old, have another set of kids. Go.
Yeah, I mean, at least the world's not against you, right?
Yeah. No, nowadays I would be absolutely afraid. I couldn't even imagine. Like I don't even know what I would talk about with that person. First of all, there's no cultural references, right? At least I would say like 30 years ago or 40 or 50 years ago, if you were talking to someone much younger than you, there was only so many world cultural references available, right? There was only so many things that were wildly acceptable. There was some kind of common ground to have. Now things are so minute, interested in coming from so many different sources. It'd be almost impossible to be on the same page as a couple of generations behind you, like on any facet. Like they're already doing something that you're using this app, they're using a different app. You're interested in this thing, but then on top of that, they don't have any callbacks. Like when I grew up and I watched a movie, they would make reference to movies that were made in the 1930s or the 1960s, you know what I mean? Like decades old movies they would make references to. New movies don't do that. They make references to shit that they came up with 5 seconds ago before they made the movie.
Well, the world's so much faster, right? I mean, that's a factor.
But things aren't better, you know what I mean? Like the quality of shows and stuff. That's so like we used to just reference the great shit, and then we had so much we got fat. We like America got spoiled with that, like our pop culture at one point. We had so much great shit that every weekend people were arguing. Like there was a serious battle between which was going to be the best movie, which was the best TV show, like who was the best actors on the TV show. Why is this TV like you could have real in-depth, long conversations, and then even get into like the politics of how the show is ran and all kinds of stuff. You used to be able to have those debates. Nowadays, it's like, does it suck or not? Like, is it good? It's either good or it sucks. Like everything pretty much sucks, or it barely passes for good or something.
Not to mention that they divided people in these camps. So let's just say your show is this one show here is a left-wing show, where everybody's full of this shit, and then this other show over here is the opposite. It's Kevin Costner with the Cowboys or whatever, right? So they don't watch the same.
Well, no, we used to watch all the same. That's the thing. All America used to watch all the same procedurals, right? Whether it was left leaning, right leaning, there was everyone watched the same shit. We don't watch the same stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a care for the craft. I think that people have lost it. I think we've actually dumbed ourselves down, and I don't know if we're capable of producing the same material like within like right now. Like if they said tomorrow, like we're going to reset and we're just going to produce quality content, I don't know if enough creators have been brought up, because I don't know if enough people have struggled, enough people have been taught, enough people have been hungry, and enough people have struggled and then return the favor to someone else that taught them, you know what I mean, in this current climate. Because now it's just like, do you check the box? Okay, cool. Now you're a comic book artist, like whether you're competent or not.
Yeah.
Good point.
Well, with TV, movies, and all that, I think a lot of that is they've eradicated the scene of anybody with a different opinion or just has an independent view of things and isn't playing the game. So a lot of those creators, special effect people, choreographers and all that, they're gone. They're no longer in Hollywood. So now you get a bunch of people who, like you said, they meet their criteria. They have no talent, and that's what you're getting served right now with a lot of programming.
Look at our actors. Look at actors in 1920 and see how many skills it was built to an actor, from actual tap dancing to singing to like acting. And then look at today's actors and like see like they don't know how to do anything. They CGI everything. There's nothing. Like
it's funny that you mentioned that, because a good example for that was Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta. So they could sing, dance, and act. Right.
Play instruments. Some people would play instruments. Yeah. Like it was, to be an actor was multiple talents. It wasn't just acting. You had to do a lot of different. You had to be able to do a lot.
If you're on Friends, what the hell do you have to? Why would you learn to do those other things? You're making $400,000 an episode.
Well, see, the problem with Friends is it should have never existed because it's an unrealistic like life scope. Shows like that is part of the downfall of our society because it gave people unrealistic life expectations. They told a bunch of kids that like, oh, you're gonna be able to live with some of your friends in this high-rise apartment in New York. Like, no, none of those people and all the jobs that they worked would have never afforded the square footage that they had in New York during that time frame.
Well, no, they spent half the seasons unemployed anyway, so who can afford that apartment?
You're right. That's
in New York or wherever. Yeah,
they were in a fictitious, magical world. You know what I mean? Like we stopped making real world stuff where people were coming up in a certain situation where it was believable, and just started making like this fantasy thing of like, this is how it looks like in America, even though it's not. That's not the reality we live in.
Isn't it weird? Isn't it weird how 70s and 80s you had to really fight to do good effects and good like a special feature type things.
Yeah.
It was an uphill battle, right? Like to make really good quality content, right, in films and stuff. And now we have everything at our disposal with we have filters that do ridiculous stuff, right? Like filters that are created for apps that are being used in film and television.
Oh, dude, if I was a
deep fakes and stuff like that.
If I was a producer now, I wouldn't write anything, right? If I was a producer in Hollywood, or if I had a bunch of money and I could jump into the game and start a production company, right? I just had a stupid amount of money for some reason. I would go and buy all the properties up that were already made into movies in the 1980s that lapsed for like the copyright and stuff, and didn't make it to VH. Like when it went from VHS to DVDs, there's a bunch of stuff that fell out of copyright there. Even those shitty movies are still better than 90% of the best movies that are written today. Like I would just take those and you would just have score. You know what I mean? If you pump those out and like remade them, and you just remade them exactly like the old script, you would make so much money because it would just be competent. It would just be competent.
But something that's going on right now. A lot of people, I feel like a lot of people are kind of forgetting about this. Hollywood is still enacting their revenge on the writers union. It's still happening right now. So that's why you notice everything's a remake. Like the last 10 years, it's remakes, new recon versions of this, that, and the other stuff that already exists. A lot of the reason for that is because of that writer's strike, and it's essentially just taken food off the table of those who harmed production companies financially. So they're just doing new versions or new takes, or they're just taking like other rejected scripts, like oh hey, you know what, we got the script to Bill and Ted, whatever that was rejected for Bill and Ted Adventure 2. Let's flip the characters. Now you got Men in Black 4.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And this is how they operate now. It's essentially they're repurposing old stuff that was paid for and abandoned. And they didn't have to pay anybody for any of it. They literally went through and just auto-generated this character's name, and that's what the character does. And a proofreader comes through and makes any adjustments to the character, like, oh, you know what, their mom died in the previous movie, we can't have her in this, this part right here, stuff like that.
I'm sure that's
so like a continuity
that's kind of where
person
we're
just
at.
comes in there and just goes check. Okay.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, it's kind of where we're at.
Well, you know, the other part of that
not with
is
everything, but
it's the fact that these people are also afraid to take any risk, right? So, like, why would you invent a new character? Let's just take Wolverine and make him into the gay Wolverine, or whatever, you know, shit like that, right? Where you just regurgitate something that's old because it's safer.
Man, it's again, when they do that stuff, it takes away from the actual accomplishments of anybody that was in any kind of position of any kind of, you know what I mean? Whatever difference it was that put you as an outsider, it completely takes away all of the headway that people who actually did fight and accomplish things and were real artists or writers or creators of any kind of impact or sort, like, so obnoxious to me. Or even political, you know what I mean? Whatever advancement in human life that you made that really, like, in reality, like, solidly, concretely made a difference in the country, and then just to be washed away because, like, I don't know, it was trendy. It's trendy. We gotta, like, switch everything around. It's so obnoxious.
There's not a lot of respect. There's not a lot of respect towards the building bricks of a lot of things, and the books and material that came before, especially in comics. I can tell you right now, like, books created today of, like, mainstream characters, they read like fan fiction to me.
Oh, they're reading terrible, and they're not doing anything. They're not doing.
They don't even feel like the real thing. They're synthetic. They're just they feel auto-generated to me, and there's a lot of that artistic part of it that's in the writing and the art that's just, it's completely void of it.
The only thing I like about this is that I think
90% of what's on the shelf, by the way, not just a couple big two books.
But what I like about this, though, is that it's self-consuming, right? Like, all these companies are self-consuming each other, and they're really, like, now they're taking on more and more debt. Like, they're fucking up, and, like, people are not paying for all of this stuff, and these companies just keep amalgamating, and they keep taking on more debt, and they keep failing in different productions. They keep doing stuff. It's just opening up the market for it to go back to where we have more creators like we had before. This country worked much better when we were far more regional. When we had regional, like, everybody in the country made more money. There were wrestling shows, you know what I mean? Before WWE and all that shit existed.
Yeah,
there were in like 5 states that would have 8 million viewers on a Sunday night. You know?
Do you remember Dick the Bruiser?
Yeah. Just things like that. I mean, like, dude, this is what I'm saying. Like, there are shows that people talk about. They're like, oh, this was in a barn or something. Yeah, okay, it was in a bar, but it was filmed, and it was in like, 8 million people watched it that week, and 8 million people across the country don't watch WWE right now. So there's a difference there. Oh, God, the other thing is that you, like, the reason why things like were able to develop is because it was such an open market, right? You never knew what was going to hit, and so since we were able to make whatever the fuck we wanted to make, a whole bunch of cool shit came out of it.
That's how it is.
It's just we keep restricting it, and we've made it dumb. We've ruined everything.
Well, you let the creators create pretty freely, and then the companies blossomed, and then when the companies got big enough, they put a stranglehold on all creators and told them, be obedient, and conform to this set of rules, and here's your check mark paper, make sure everything is checked. It's no longer fun. Why would you give any good idea you have to a company that's essentially going to make a ton of money off of your, blood, sweat, and tears, and have no,
right now I would
thank you, at the beginning of a film, hey, thanks, Shell, thanks for that character you developed that we just made, 900 action figures of, and this and that. Here's your 0.01% of all sales on items that are in print. Oh, by the way, we don't care about print anymore.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing, though. the power that you have, like I would love to be a Shadow Punk or American Discord, you know what I mean? I would love to be one of you two creators right now, because right now, like, it's gonna flip in the next 10, 15 years. It's gonna flip. They're gonna like continue to lose money. Things are gonna fail. Other shows are gonna rise up. These companies are gonna be hungry for properties again, IPs, established IPs with fan bases that can be
100%
marketed.
agree.
And you guys are in the prime position. If I was a creative, if I could draw like you, Shelby, I'd be creative. I'd create 21 different realities just as a fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And I would just keep them in a book. You know what I mean? Just keep them in a book. Have the one private, but like just have, you know what I mean? Come up with like hundreds of things that could be optioned at some point in the future.
I've literally been telling my closest friends for about close to 15 years that they need to put out, and these are people working at Marvel and DC and Dark Horse and whatnot. I'm like, dude, you need to just have something on your back burner. You need to have an independent book, your own creation. Get 4 books. Hammer out 4 books in a year. Just 4 books. Sit on them. You don't even have to put it out. Just sit on it. Just something else to it's twofold. It keeps the creative juices flowing, and later on, when that company terminates you because you tweeted something they don't agree with, then you got something to put on a crowdfund platform, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say that, but it's true. If you say the wrong thing, you know, it's like punching the hornet's nest, you know?
Well, you know, since I started on my project, I've noticed how indie comics have that ability to just come up with cool ideas and implement them whenever they want to do it, and which is the total like 24 saying it's a total opposite of the big two, right? Or even the larger companies like
even
Dark
if it's
Horse
a Boom or Dark Horse or
because you know, but I think what you're saying that it's going to flip down the road is really probably true, because there's too much quality stuff and too much shitty big mainstream stuff for that not to happen.
Yeah, but also do not create for the sake of trying to create a property that would adapt well. Never create anything thinking, oh, this would be a cool video game, so I'm going to make this comic book. Like, don't use any comic as a device for this might be a cool this, that, and the other later down the road. You know what I'm saying? Make them.
I think that's. I don't think that's how they ever worked, right? Like all those properties were never really created for something other purpose. They were able to be repurposed in other ways, like Ninja Turtles, right? The Ninja Turtle comic books are not the same as the cartoon or the movie. You know.
Well, I'm talking about creator own, like now.
He's saying if you're a new creator, don't start out with the idea that you're gonna.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying. I don't think any book ever worked out that way, right? I don't think anyone is in this period ever created a property.
No, there actually are. There actually are. I do know a few big names that are. They have their eye. It's weird. They got their eyes on Netflix. They got their eyes on streaming service as a possible pitch, and I'm like, this isn't a stepping stone. Quit the stepping stone method. Your book. Make it where it'll take $1 billion for them to make a product as good as the printed book. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm. Yeah,
because it's almost like the Marvel thing. Like you notice when the movies started coming out, even though they were Fox, what's the first thing they did to the characters? They dummied them down. They're all wearing motorcycle onesies. You know what I'm saying? Like they got rid of all the really cool. All the tchotchkes with the characters, you know, the stupid emblems, the giant, you know, the shoulder pad stuff and all that. It looked cool. It sold the character, and then all of a sudden they all looked like Boy Scouts of America. You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't look original. So they dummied down the character to resemble the movies because they figured, oh, this way they're recognizable, because the movie didn't follow our shit at all. You know, you never got your yellow suit Wolverine. I mean, that was what, a decade of X-Men movies, and you didn't get Wolverine once.
Not
you got a teaser,
or the brown one,
suitcase. Yeah, you got a suitcase. You got a little teaser. Like, they don't care about you.
This was easy. Oh my god! But this is the thing, though. They could have made so much money. This is what's agitating to me, is that they could have fulfill, like this is what they used to do, right? Like the commercials that I played, they used to like play to America, right? We used to like they were making money. They didn't really have those values, but at least they fucking espoused our values, pretended, played along with the game. Like we don't have that. We used to be able to. Oh, it's so agitating now. It's like it's this is the most insane thing in the world. When Howard Stern is talking about how he doesn't like some kind of medium of speech or whatever, and he wants to shut people down. Meanwhile, he was the guy in the fucking 80s and 90s getting these hundreds of thousands of dollars of fucking fines for the FCC.
Oh, for being he was like an edge lord.
Yeah,
I remember him putting 2 special needs people together on like the dating game. All that.
I mean,
it's
okay,
like,
this is the guy
was so cringe.
This guy said that you should be executed if you don't like get the COVID shot, but this is also the guy that did blackface with Robin, like his black host.
Right.
He's been on radio with him like his entire fucking career. Did blackface for a good solid 10 years on Howard TV. Like
well, Howard Stern he's obviously owned, right? He's doing the bidding of other people that and I'm sure his brain has been convinced of things that are not good, right?
Well, he lives in the Hamptons now. He's in the part of New York where he's in a building that he owns a section of the building. It's several floors, you know what I mean? And he's got security, and because of his ability, he can get a gun, and he's got a concealed carry, and he's got a security team.
Really?
See, Howard's got the gun. That's the thing.
This is typical of these type of people. They're just really pieces of shit. I hate to say it, but you have to call things as they are.
It's always been the same thing. Well, it's elitist in general. It's a do as I say, not as I do. That's really what it comes down to.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing I love about pop culture is that I believe that I think pop culture is too generalized, and I don't think that in the modern climate, America takes enough credit for anything that it's done or contributed to the world. And one of the most powerful things, and I think the reason why it's being attacked so hard, is pop culture. Like, it influences the world, and American culture influences the world over. Like, there are things that we've done that were unique to only our country, that we have written stories, did novelizations of, whatever, that other countries do fantasy writing about. They have whole comic book series that we don't sell in America about American things, in another country. Like we literally influence the entire world with whatever, with our heroics in our stories, whatever it is. Or we make cool shit. It's just we just make the coolest shit. I'm sorry,
it's a really good point, and probably to your larger point is that isn't really happening anymore, right? I mean, I don't know what I would describe as a good idea, but Star Wars, okay? You're not really. I guess they kind of make things like Star Wars now, like Avengers or something.
They're not going to make an alien again. There's not going to be someone that's going to go out there and creep out and make another. We're not going to get another Avatar or anything. We're not going to get any of that kind of stuff. Like there's too many check boxes to make an interesting story that is like relative to one area that where one specific kind of person just might be whatever they might be, like you just can't do it, or you're gonna offend someone. Like, so even if it's a Native American movie, well, this Native American movie surrounds this tribe, and well, the actor in the movie had this kind of feather. Well, that's the wrong feather for the region and something.
Right. Yeah, the movies to me are so sophisticated now in the level of propaganda. Like there's a thing that you watch in front of your eyeballs, right? The story, the plot, the beginning, the middle, the end. But then there's these things that go in the back of our head, these ideas that you don't realize that are being dropped in there. And you might be driving home, and that's how they propagandize us, right? So down the road, when something happens, you have an opinion about something, and it's kind of creepy, and there's more overt examples like the Avengers, right? You guys remember the Avengers Endgame, which is the last one, right? The last big one.
Yeah.
So the last scene of the movie is old Steve Rogers handing the mantle to the new Captain America, right? And I'm like, okay, this makes sense. And so the Falcon guy, who's a new Captain America, he's holding the shield like dead center screen, right? But the star is not an American star, which is what you think it is, right? With it pointed up. It's inverted. And it's right in front of your face, right? Dead center of the screen. And you're like, the levels of sophistication are so, like, you don't know you don't know that's a satanic thing. But, you know, down the road, you're going to be comfortable seeing that symbol in other places, you know?
Yeah. It's pretty terrible, but that's why I want to bring back the creativity, and I think that's what we're doing. And I've seen it in a lot of places. There are people get very stuck in their corners and they don't realize what's going on, but there are tons of film festivals, there are tons of writers, there's tons of comic book creators. There's new media being created every day. And I think there's two things. Like, it's fine to criticize things, because I like criticizing things. Like, we started out, the whole fun of like entertainment was an argument here and there about, like, is this the greatest movie? Difference is the goalposts move, and now, like, every movie's shitty, so you're just arguing over the shittiest movie as opposed to the greatest movie in reality. But we can bring it all back. We can reclaim this culture, because they're going to become bankrupt. They're going to lose, and at some point they have to come back to something that is going to make money, that's going to make the majority of people happy. And the rest of the world's going to suffer until we get back. Like, the rest of the world's not going to come up with, like, any of these, like, crazy great ideas. There's very few shows from England, from Australia, South America, anywhere in the world that are, like, universally shows that weren't sold, repackaged, or redone in America. You know what I mean? Like, it's very rare that there's a show from another country that is a breakout, that is, like, international in the same way that an American show is.
That's a good point. Because, you make a good point. I don't know how many Australian things, for example, or English things are that have that much gravitas.
I can, you know what I mean? It's always like a handful of things, like to name the period, but it's only like 5 or 6 things. It's not the same as the amalgamation of all the entertainment that exists in the world.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there are things that take off and are huge, outside the U.S., but we just don't hear about it. One of my favorite bands, actually, here in the States, they're relatively unknown. In Canada and in Germany, they're #1 at the chart sales for digital and physical sales.
David Hasselhoff was #1 in Germany for a long time. I'm just saying, like, look, you can't use the Germany argument.
Shelby's a closet Hasselhoff fan.
Germany will back Hasselhoff. That's all I'm saying.
You go to Discogs.com, look up a band called Billy Talent, and then look up their chart. Look up the charts on their sales. On all of their albums, and you're going to see that cause they're out of Canada, and you never hear about them here. They probably can't even get a crowd here, but they'll sell 10 million. They'll sell 10 million digital.
Top radio. I've heard Billy Talent.
Yeah, but
radio stations.
They own Germany's rock stations. Like, they own them. Like, they're overplayed over there. And I'm just saying it's.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Germany doesn't know how to create things. The Americas is where all the greatness comes from. I'm just
Well, I'm just curious, like, what other things, like, what's coming out of it? Like, because Japan creates their own content, right? Yeah. But it's been a while since I've seen Japanese content. Besides like a standalone movie that Sundance praises, right? You don't see much anything coming out of their serialized shows or anything like that. So
what Japan and America has had, like, has had a symbiotic relationship with some of the entertainment things. We have taken cues from them, and they've taken cues back from us, and it's developed, like, cinema that is, like, above. That's what I'm saying. Like, when we're not creating things, we're not actually creating. When it's not like the 70s here in America, where there's, like, alien biker movies and all these, like, cool, like, anything goes, and vampire exploitation movies and all this other stuff, like, all of the gambit of things. Like, the rest of the world suffers. Like, the whole world dumbs down. Like, we literally are the voice of reason.
They took we took Akira from them and gave them Tom Selleck for Mr. Baseball, right? Is that how that worked?
They loved it. We gave him Baywatch, right?
We're getting baseball. Like, come on, they love baseball. Like, fuck, that's a good trade. Pretty good trade. Baseball is a fine sport.
They love baseball out there.
They play it differently out there. They play it very
play
differently. Yeah, they actually have very high like you can get booted from the game for like taking someone out on a slide. They have very like even like head dives. They're not supposed to head dive. They're supposed to slide feet first. Yeah.
So it's like Ty Cobb would not make it in the league.
It's like unscripted rules. They exist like pretty hard over there. Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
No, they took our game and they made it into like this fine art kind of thing. They really like took it to the next.
I was watching a movie the other day. It was an old Akira Kurosawa movie from right after, like in 1946, and in it, it's like a love story. And the kids in the street are playing baseball. And I thought, wow, how long have they been doing that? I mean, you would think it would be like 50s, 60s type of thing. But I think they've been playing baseball for a long time.
Yeah, they actually produced the greatest hitter of all time over there. He just never played here. His last name was O-H. I don't know his exact numbers, but he was playing at the same time as Babe Ruth. And they didn't bring him over because he was Japanese. I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. But yeah, his numbers, he outperformed every American player in every. And granted, the league was different, right? Like I don't want to equate it to American numbers on the basis that maybe the average Japanese player was playing at like a 15-year-old level here in the States, right? Like I don't know that. I don't know. I've never seen
you don't know what
to be able
level.
to make that call. Yeah, so maybe this guy was just like an average Major League Baseball player, but he was just putting ownage on these like weak ass players. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Maybe it's the other way. You don't know.
Maybe it was harder. Yeah, maybe it was harder, and he just excelled like insanely. So yeah, I don't really know. But yeah, numerically he was destroying the league over there, and I think he got mentioned in like Life magazine once. Like he was not a big deal here. Yeah.
What?
You know what? I don't know. There's a lot.
They used
of
him
stuff.
in RBI baseball for the NES. He's like the power hitter on one of the teams. They just put it's a little nod to him because of,
so there you go. That's what I'm saying. Like, okay, so we have all these like American History Months for whatever kind of thing. They don't ever go over those kind of people, right? Like they don't. They literally don't. There are I can name a race. There are 5 people from any given race that they tell you about in any given month. And they don't tell you about all the other people that blaze the trail for them to get there. They don't tell you about all the other dudes that that were in much harsher conditions that actually created the conditions for anyone to succeed beyond them. You know, like they forged the path. They were the first person. They took the actual blows. They dealt with the actual like words being said, and not just words, but like, I don't know, maybe your house getting burned down. Maybe people assaulting your family and your children and yourself, like all kinds of things, and still fucking said, no, fuck you. I'm going to do this. Like I have the grit. Like I'm going to be here. I have the knowledge, the ability, whatever. Like I think that's that in the wild American spirit. Like we didn't beat the Brits by like standing in lines, you know, like standing in formations and like gunning them down like we used to do in the original military warfare style, right? We got a little creative and we went outside the box, and that's what Americans do. And we're always considered the assholes, right? Like world over, we are the most obnoxious people. We are like we really are. Like we're the most likely to do something like out of bounds. You know what I mean? Like we're most likely to cross a line or do something. But it's that spirit that gets us where we're at. That's what made us.
Well, I'll tell you something. That has kind of disappeared. I've been watching the last few years, and I'm like, what the hell's wrong with people?
I know that we've had dark periods in America before. I just think that we never wrote it down correctly. And I think that we're just through one of those periods. I think we're in a McCarthy kind of period and that we're going to get through it. But unfortunately, we're a group of people that were sold the American dream full sale. And then like our predecessors, like our parents and our grandparents pretty much sold us all out, you know? Yeah, I mean, like depending, like my grandfather was a World War II vet, so he helped protect me. My father was one of the people that voted for the people who fucking sold all our shit to China, that moved all our production, that moved all our ability. I mean, if we didn't have the manufacturing in China
just had this
that we
talk
had
with a
now,
friend. Yes,
if we had that right now, we wouldn't have the printing problems that we have right now, right? We wouldn't have the shortage of paper. We wouldn't have the shortage of ability to do things. American comic books would be blowing up. Like, you know what I mean? Independent, any kind of media written would be blowing up because we would have the ability to press it here. It's like we sold it out. There's a whole generation of people that just sold us the fuck out.
Well, you know, the thing though is that, you're totally right. Our grandparents did that kind of stuff. But they're no dumber than the people today. I mean, it's just a different thing that they're being sold.
Yeah, people are doing it today as well. It's just a different product. It's your personal information now. It's not just a company.
But no, things like selling, signing NAFTA deals to sell to convince the American people this is a good idea, right? And all the presidents line up and they sell and say, this is going to be the best thing, right? And you're like, that's such a sophisticated way to scam people. And especially when you mix it with patriotism, right? And you pretend that's what that is, then our grandparents are like, oh yeah, this is the way to go, right? And they don't know they're being lied to. They trust the people that are talking, right? And they're still doing that. People still trust the government. They still trust the media, which is stunning. But it's what you have to deal with. You have to deal with it.
We all got an abusive relationship right now with the country. So it's like you keep going back, even though you know they're bad.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a terrible, abusive situation. But you know what? Here in pop culture, we like to keep positive. So like we said, we bring up old great things, or we bring up great new things that are around the corner. And you gentlemen both have projects. Shelby or Shadowpunk, would you, either one of you want to go first? Like talk about your project real quick before we wrap up and get out of here.
I was like, okay.
Go Shadowpunk.
Sure, yeah. I'll talk about Shadowpunk. So this is my first project I've ever worked on. And when I started, man, I was like, I made an animated movie about this character, and then I made a trailer, and I didn't know I was going to do a comic book, and the whole experience has been like a whole new world to me, right? Going online, talking to people like you guys. I mean, it's totally like it's really cool to start learning and new things and whatnot. This trailer took me about 6 months to make. So obviously you guys probably know I do 3D animation as well. So I do the 3D sculpts for characters and whatnot, which I love doing, right? But yeah, so actually tonight at midnight, I think I go into in demand. So
okay.
So
this is pertinent.
Yeah, I mean, it's I've been pretty, I didn't make $1 zillion, but I'm really happy with the level my campaign got. Nobody knows who I am. And I was able to find my way into the community multiple ways with my book and with my 3D work, which is, which has been really nice. So this is definitely it's an awesome book. I love working on it. My character I worked on her a long time to get her right, and she is I'm not sure how to describe it. If you want to play the trailer, we can do that.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's see it. Oh, God dang it. Wow, that was... There you go.
Yeah, so my art style, as far as a comic book goes, is pretty different than most people. And which is kind of, I don't really know how to be another artist. I can only just be myself, right? And it all kind of started with that cover. When I made that cover, I was like, that was where I found out probably what my style was going to be.
Okay, there we go. Very nice. So are you the principal artist for everything on this book?
Yeah, I'm doing everything. I'm writing it, coloring it, inking it, drawing it.
Very cool, sir. A lot to take on at one time. This is, I guess, this is the great debate, right? Like, at what point do you develop your IP, and then you have to find another artist to help you, like with the production schedule? I guess at a certain point.
I think if you were more of a logical person, you would, at some point you would go, I'm going to find other people to help me complete this. I'm like not that way. I literally like, I want control of my thing. It's hard for me to let go and say, okay, I need a colorist to do this page, it's part of my psychology. I've always done everything on my own. So, and everybody's different in CG. Some people are like, I want to focus on being the best writer possible, and then I'm going to get the best penciler possible, best inker, which I think is also valid. I like the idea that you get my single vision, my artistic vision for what this world is. To me, that has a lot of value to me. And everybody can do it their own way, I suppose. So,
we got a trading card here.
Yeah, the first day backers got this. So
this is going to be an eBay find if you are interested in this.
Right. This is going to be a red foil card, and it's for the first day backers, the first 24 hours of the people that got that. I sold a decent amount of T-shirts. People enjoyed them, and I sold a lot of the figures. When you scroll down, you'll see my figure in 3D. I never did 3D printing before, so I could do 3D, but I couldn't do 3D printing. So I had to buy a 3D printer and learn how to do it, and which was awesome. It's like you conceive of something and then it ends up you can create the finished product, right? So it's a big, as an artist, it's a big accomplishment for me to make that happen.
Very cool. So all these 3D print, are you the person, since you're the guy that likes to take on everything, are you the principal? Are you going to be the artist that has to do hand painted these pieces?
I did hand paint them. Yeah, they're all shipped right now and they're all fulfilled.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Already done. How long did that take you? I feel like Irene got herself in a hole when she had to do all that wood burning. Like, I couldn't imagine. This is crazy. Like, you hand painted all of these like that?
Wow. Yeah. So what I did was it took me about 2 months to get the 3D printing process down, because when you 3D print, there's like a dozen variables that have to be working to make it work correct. Once you get it, you know how to do it. But there was a big learning curve. One of the machines I broke because I didn't know what I was doing. I had to buy another one, and then, but I got it in the end, right? And that was a big deal. That was, I'm actually in the process now of, I'm going to be making during my campaign, I sold other sculpts of characters I made. I didn't sell them, I should say. I gave them away. So I gave like a couple salamandroids and a couple cyber frogs, and a couple. I gave a juggernaut, a really big juggernaut that I made, and people loved it, man, and it was fun. I think people had a fun time tuning in. Maybe they could win one of those,
I really hope that this helps lead to a lot of comic book creators doing some crossover with their properties and some of their guys or whatever, and they're kind of creating game pieces or pieces can be adapted to different games. I would love to see that, like start to cross over a lot more. I'd like to see these like ideas and IPs and storylines start like popping up. That was my favorite part of D&D, was that there was great story, right? You could play an adventure, you could go buy an adventure, and it was like, you know.
Oh yeah,
it's like beautifully written, and it was like a real actual thing to do. Just it's crazy. And
well, I think that having a 3D printed figure is unique in CG. It doesn't come along that often. Hopefully, it does become more common. I've done a couple sculpts for other people, but they take a long time to do. They take me about a solid week to work on. So you know, it's like, hey, can you do my character? I can do your character, but I got to set aside my whole life for a solid week.
Are you doing the one where it like sits there and it like squirts out the plastic little, or is it like the one where it like uses the light to like cure it and it like builds it?
Yes, it uses the light to cure like a pancake. It does every layer, right, and it builds up.
Yeah.
And I just bought a new 3D printer that's 3 times the size of my old one.
It's like, I'm gonna be pumping stuff out.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a Kickstarter for Shadowpunk in the late fall maybe. So I'm gonna hopefully I'll be able to sell more figures. So I want to be prepared for that. Plus, I want to at one point create larger figures.
Yeah.
Right. You know, because you can scale them up as you want.
I really think that's the next thing. I think that the next thing in the creative scene is going to be seeing independent printers and like toy makers, is seeing like the rise of like people who have shops that are able to take these smaller properties at a reasonable price and start producing some stuff that should build.
You know, it's tricky because, like, for example, up till now, I've charged people roughly around $700 to sculpt a character. And that's me making less than minimum wage when I do it, right? So that's a lot of money. And let's just say I make a character for somebody, they need to be able to get that money back when they sell the figures. Otherwise, they didn't make it. You know, they didn't make profit. So there also is that factor too. You've got to be able to have a popular character that's going to make it worth it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like everybody's group effort, right? It's all the money going into the guy that makes the figures, whether they're successful or not, helps build that team, that quality, that technology, that ability to print people at a cheaper rate or whatever. I mean, I don't know. It's pretty crazy. The printing stuff's getting crazier and crazier. I think manufacturing in America is going to be the next step. I really do. Like, I'm waiting for like. There's a lot of baller guys out here, but they just dump money into like making the books. But what I would like to see is like some people dump money into like, making a printing company or something. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Going to the next step of it, you know, facilitating like the creators' growth, because like it's like incremental. Like everybody figured out like now we can do indie again. Here's another route. Here's another avenue. Here's a bunch of creators supporting each other. Here's a whole bevy of ways to do it. But it's still we gotta get to the next level. Like, how do we make it easier? How do we make it quicker? How do we make it more affordable, etc.?
Yeah, it's tricky. You're right. I think so. In time, they're gonna be producing 3D printers that print color, right? Where you won't have to paint these things. You will have at least a solid color on the character, right? And that's a huge step, right? And so I know some people like the posable figures, where they're like a G.I. Joe type figure, or Star Wars. You know, that's also super cool. And that's one of the cool things about CG is that, like I said, you know, you can just American Discord wants a character, and within a week or two, you have one, right? And you have one to sell. You don't have to call a meeting and do a committee to fucking figure it out.
Yeah. I feel like what's going to happen is when everybody catches up and everyone has capabilities of doing like 3D printing, full color, fully rendered even, right? Like multiple color values within the 3D print and all that even. The new fad will be retro. They just want gray. They just want the old school look, you know,
Sure.
like
just
it's like with all the advances, even with like music now, you know, everyone went back to vinyl, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, you know,
So
the thing is, a good example. I'll give you a good example. So when my character is painted silver, but I kind of did that because the old, remember like the Remington statues of the horses? It'll be like a horse, or those are pretty damn sweet. And there's something eternal about those things. And you may come up with a billion different things, but one day you're going to go, that's pretty cool still, to your point.
yeah.
Very nice. Well, we
That
have
stuff's fun.
we have we have Shadowpunk. That is one project. All the links for Shadowpunk are gonna be in the description. So that's the Twitter, the YouTubes. That's also our IndieGoGos, and then you can check out Shelby's project here, 94 Rage Tality War #1, currently in demand on IndieGoGo.
Yep, still being worked on it. So ignore those numbers. The book is, I'm killing myself over it. It's about 100 pages at this point.
Wow.
56 pages.
I
Wipe
kept
it out.
adding,
It's like
yeah,
double.
just ignore, ignore every freaking word
Jump
there.
bit.
It's, yeah.
If you like badass, like super sick, like artwork, you're just gonna get a lot of it in this project. Like you were already back, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna get the catch up, but now you got like the super catch up with this project. Poor Shelby out here trying to like live off of ramen and do chair streams,
Right?
So
Chair
that
streams
you
and ramen.
poor bastards can.
I need
can
more
have
subs on
100
my
pages.
YouTube so I can be monetized.
Y'all go over there and sub.
So I can make my $8 a month. Yeah, so 94 Rage Tality War, it's basically a love letter to the 90s when I started my career in comic books. A lot of tropes, a lot of 90s tropes, characters that are as big as a mountain. You got, you
got pouches.
A lot of, you got pouches, you got swords, you got vacuum cleaners as guns, things like that. Hopefully drawn well. I tried to draw I tried to make it a little more fashion forward because, I mean, to be honest, even my early work, the 90s stuff, it kind of sucks. Like it's like, I keep going back to music. It's like you can have a genre of music, you're going to find 900 failures, things that you don't like, and then maybe 5 that are actually good, right? I want this to be one of the good ones, even though it's a little bit of a 90s emulator. Yeah, so a little bit of my 90s look of my style, and then a little bit of the fashion forward stuff that I actually do right now.
Awesome. Very cool.
That's just a few interior pages there.
Also,
that's all art and colors by me, and then the I did bring on another colorist to help me out. I was getting a little lot behind on my coloring of where I planned on being with it. So he does a little bit of the middle lifting, and then I do the inline rendering and finish process. Sometimes even redoing a page. Like a lot of times the mark is missed, but I appreciate all of his efforts that he puts into it. I'm a 2-3 page a day guy with the line art, but coloring, I 1 a week, and that's not going to work because that would mean you guys wouldn't see this book until 2028. I mean, it's just, I'm stupid slow as a colorist, so I didn't really anticipate that. I'm not really sure why. I don't feel like I'm choking. It's just I haven't been getting, and I've been trying to be very aware too, my streaming time, because I noticed I was streaming a lot. I was jumping a lot on with like Shane and stuff and doing my own stuff. And 6 hours, 7 hours later, that's hours you should have been working on your book, you know, as far as a creator. I'm just saying, as far as the creator is concerned, for myself. So I was like, man, I got to cut back. So I started cutting back and focusing on the book. And I was like, I'm still slow. What's going on here? Like, it's still not getting done as quickly as I had, you know, planned. I actually have got a spreadsheet. I stopped looking at it, you know, a couple months ago. I was like, man, I'm just, you know what? I'm just going to keep my nose down and keep working, and I'll know when it's done. So, yeah, that's the Ashcan set of 3 add-on 48 page. Those Ashcans are printed black and white. They're actually 16 pages each. They're supplemental. There's 3 points of the story that refer to the stories within each individual Ashcan here. It's not necessary for the book. It's just for fun. And it's black and white, you know, so you don't have to have it. Yeah, you don't have to have it.
No, but it's like if you get the G.I. Joe, this is like the story in the back of the card that makes it like extra things make more sense.
Yeah, this is like you buy the Cobra Trooper, but these Ashcans is like the ferret, right? Like this is the vehicle, so you don't need it, you know. But it's kind of, he looks cooler on the ferret.
Yes, sir.
So
this is amazing work. You do great work. I also catch you on your channel doing just auctioning off some works that you've done, various different works. I love a lot of the retro work. I got your Slimer, I got a Ninja Turtles, I got a Chucky, I got a Critters.
Oh, nice. The prints, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that campaign exclusive variant is it's an homage to the Wizard magazine #1. If you go down a little bit, actually.
Yeah, there you go.
It's the swinging one. That right there, yeah. So that's the old school Todd McFarlane Spidey cover for Wizard. I even emulated the logo with it in the colors and all that. So yeah, that cover is exclusive to this campaign. So any future reprints, I will not be using this cover. Just so you guys.
Oh, so this is it. Get it on this.
Yeah. That's gonna be the eBay special. Hopefully I don't find any on there. I hope people decide that it's worth keeping.
I don't know. I mean, like, I kind of depends. You know what I mean? Like people want to keep it, but when you see it for a high price, you're like, oh, see, like Comey, you know, he was smart.
Makes it easier to part with.
He had an eye for it. You know what I mean? Like he knew it was. You know, I mean, kind of like confirming.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame. I did actually. Currently, I had sold off quite a few slabs that I had of early Uncanny Silvestri stuff and that first appearance books. I got a bunch of these omnibuses now, which are printed really nicely, and I'm like, I'm never cracking these slabs, and I don't have a backup for them either. You know,
yeah.
I don't have beta readers of every book. I have slabs, so I was like, well, I got these now, so I'm good. I can sell off the.
I want the book. I don't want the digital reader. I don't care. Like if I have the slab, then I need to have a copy of the book to be able to read. Like that just would drive me insane. I couldn't just be a collector just to be a collector. Just like, oh, this Superman #1. Like, no, I need 2 Superman #1. I need the reader copy and the one in the slab. Like that. That doesn't work for. Oh man, that drive me insane.
Yeah. So, yeah, the stuff. Yeah, the book's fun. I'm having fun with it. It's I can't say too much. Like when you guys see it, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I do in it that's it might raise a few eyebrows, but it's think like Deadpool but cooler. Not trying to be. It's not like Deadpool of the Princess Company, right? Like, it's kind of what it should be if it was, but it doesn't exist. So you got Ragetality instead.
Oh yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. The creative, like actually something coming out and giving people a product they want. I love that. I love this project's badass. I'm back with this project. Better Shadow Punk's project.
Yeah, and it's actually done. It's done exceptional. So word's gotten out. Yeah, my first campaign, I had like 40 backers. My second one, 100, I think, and then this is my third. So it blew up. I will say, I do think that the video is one reason. I had no video for my first 2 campaigns, so I feel like the video is like a huge factor.
Maybe we should play it
until
we should play it then.
You don't have to. You don't have to. It's. I wish I went first because Shadow Punks is awesome. Mine's. You get to see
because I've never seen it.
Yeah, let's see.
You get to see a booty and a whistle.
Well, were your first 2 campaigns of this quality level?
Yeah.
So it was just people notoriety, just people giving no.
I think it took my first one getting fulfilled, and then my second one was a collection of the original first 3 issues in '94 as a trade. And then I got that fulfilled pretty quickly, and then I did some sketchbook stuff on my website for last year's. Every year I try to do a sketchbook of some sort, and it's just pinups, prelims, kind of like it's like a B-sides collection, like it's not really stuff that's necessary, or it's stuff that was omitted from books or whatnot. So that did pretty well like outside of crowdfunding, and I think that helped a little bit too.
Yeah, but you've done covers for other people, right? So I mean, it sounds like over time.
So what's weird is the cover stuff though. Only a few of those that I did, they were actually for friends of mine who have Kickstarter campaigns. They don't have IndieGoGo campaigns, and their campaigns actually underperformed for what they should have done, like to recoup their costs, because they got like Wolf Spartaccio and Brett Booth covers and stuff like that, and then me, and I know what they paid when they got campaigns pulling 2,600. It's like they're not recouping what they paid to get that book created.
Well,
and then over here
in other on other shows, I know because I'm very new to the whole thing. Your name has come up. And I remember when that happens, it sounds to me like you have you're reaching a lot of people at that point.
I try to stream. My streams are kind of boring. I just do like art streams or like hangouts sometimes, but
or chair streams.
Chair streams. There's only 2 or 3 of those. Yeah. So, but I don't know. It's weird. It's like I haven't really traversed over to, I guess, Ethan's Corner. Like areas like there, like where you would get a very large, broad audience. I think most of them don't even know who I am. I ended up on the Jack Show on accident. Kelsey had sent me a link on Twitter, and I just saw it in StreamYard. I'm like, oh shit! And I clicked it. He's never spoken to me. I click it. And then I'm sitting there, and they're all drunk, and chat's going, and literally chat was, "Who the f is this? Who the fuck's this guy?" And I was like, deer in headlights. I didn't know how to react, what to say. I was out of my element. Like what they were talking about, I couldn't even tell you now. It was the weirdest experience. And I was like slowly moving my hand to like exit out. I was like, I got to get out of here.
Sure.
And then Kelsey's like, so Shelby, how you been, man? What's going on? And I'm like, doing pretty good. And there was like 2 or 3 chatters that were like, chill dudes, he's cool, or I like dessert, or
Right.
But it was like, oh man, I felt like I got my toes
Shark
dipped
Tank?
in the piranha. Well, yeah, I was gonna say the piranha lake, dude. Like,
the other day I did a sculpt of Ripa, the Eric July character, Ism or whatever his name is. I made a 3D sculpt of him, and so I put it on Instagram, and Nerderotic liked it and followed me. And I had one of those moments where I was like, what the fuck is going on? Right?
Nice.
I'm telling you, I hope that we continue to see successes like Eric July. I think that it brings more blood into an area where we don't see people. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Is every single person going to translate to a customer for someone in CG? No, but it gives us a bigger volume or a bigger pool to dip into, and I like that kind of thing.
Yeah, indie comics needs just more fans in general, to be honest. Like, I would say most people who I come across at like store signings or just hanging out and just talking to people at the shop, if I'm going picking up a few items, they don't know, or it's like crowdfunding is jaded for them. They're like, oh no, 10 years ago I backed this thing on Kickstarter, so I just gave up on crowdfunded comics. Like, it's not on their mind, and it's not in their. They have no peripheral. They just have that tunnel vision. Like, if it's here, I'm going to get it. And other than that, even if it's good, they have no interest in it because they had a bad experience. They had an unshipped something they backed a decade ago. They never got it, or they did and they got it and it was damaged or not what it was supposed to be. And it seems like it's always like horror stories, like other indie creators who did something that just gave them a very negative approach to crowdfunded product. And I know I know it is rampant actually, and because there's board games and stuff like that. I mean, hell, my own book is late now, but. I think that if you get it and it's a really, really cool product, I think that overall people are cool with it. But yeah, like I said, how many people have been turned off because of a bad experience with a crowdfunder, comic or a creator even.
I've heard of creators doing crowdfundings and then never finishing their book. Or like you spend years and they collected a lot of money. That's a good example of what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's like that was a potential backer for your book, who's never going to know about your book because now they're just like F crowdfunders. You know what I mean? Because of their experience, and it's like, how do you win that back? Like, how do you win that customer back?
I think the way you win it back is what 24 said was, you may lose that person, but somebody like Eric July will bring in a ton of people, right? And so over time, we hope that expands indie comics.
I do too. I think part of the problem was when you first looked at the crowdfund thing, there wasn't a lot of completed books. Now there is an army of completed books, right? So it's not like just a thing of waiting. If you get into indie comics and you can find a handful of creators, between a handful, you can keep yourself pretty, buying on a pretty regular schedule or whatever. So things like CG now, where people can find a group of independent books like all in one spot and they can get it right now in their hands, produced, done. That I think that builds like the confidence, and it also like gets people into the scene. Then they start watching the shows and then they like people like, oh no, I want to back this book. And like I said, more books that come out that we see like that, like they have creators they know they can go to, right? You'll have less of this like, oh, it's like all of these things are terrible and people are late all the time. Like, no, here's 65 books that I literally can buy right now that are that were crowdfunded, that were delivered, that were done, they're fucking completed. Like, just I think it's going to take that momentum, because the social media stuff is too loud. It's too loud of crying to hear about the negative, and people latch on to negative. It's going to just take like the proving ground of a bunch of people, middle ground creators, like just suffering through it and creating properties and building fan bases, and because of their hard work, it'll create an avenue for everybody else. I mean, as it keeps building, and then as more newer and better creators come in and they like add to the pot, then it just makes it up, it makes everything better. But we just have to get through the negative stuff. And like, this is crowdfunding is a relatively new medium, like way of running things. So I mean, give it time to build customer confidence,
Yeah, I definitely know it's crowdfunding is difficult. Well, it's difficult because if you're just like like I said, just a one-man army, right? Like you're doing all the lifting on your book. There's no way you're going to get a monthly title finished and crowdfunded and completed and in a cycle, or even a 3 issues a year, right?
I mean, it just
and I kind of feel like you need that volume to be able to build a real, like an actual momentum of like a crowd-based growth, right? You need a consistency with like new product, and I'm just not seeing that. I've been racking my brain for myself for ways that I can get. I mean, I could realistically do 5 books a year on my own, like full-length books completed, but it's the fulfillment, it's the campaigning, it's all this other stuff that chips away at your. We only have 24 hours a day. You know where I'm going with this? Like,
totally.
So when exactly? You know what I mean?
So I think the problem is that some people need to focus on their strengths. So there are creators that can do all of that, right? They can do 100% do every single bit of it and deliver all of it on time. And then there's other people that have different, like there's different levels of people, right? So I think in some cases that like maybe if you are the artist, writer, and colorist, and you are doing all of it and you're doing bigger books, maybe you need a salesman. Maybe you make a friend. When you're doing your channel, doing your drawings, you have a friend. And like get a person, or work on having more people that are more spokespeople that go around. Like, hey, Kemosabe's going to come on and he's going to talk about Shadowpunk today, and you know what I mean, and does the shout out while you're working on the book in the background, because I think that is
chat does a badass job. Like mods drop links all day long. I see it on every channel. Mods dropping links for everyone's products. Just saying hi, it's like, and then they're like, oh, I know that person, and they're just dropping your links, and it's like, oh, I was legitimately saying hi to these people, although I do appreciate the link being dropped. It's like you're not in there trying to get some clout, you're like trying to actually say, hey guys, what's up, I'm here to watch this too, so that's a plus for all of us, very, very enthusiastic backers and fans of everybody's books.
I mean, other thing I think is like small crossovers. I think crossover with characters are a way to like add more to the book. You know what I mean? Like to I guess the ongoing continuity of the character, or side continuity for a character.
Have there been any of those? Have there been?
There's a couple of crossover books. I mean, Perfect 10. David Brink, he's willing to do that. He does like a series of books called like Crossworlds, so he's got one coming out here for Perfect 10, and I guess that's gonna be like the series. Like anyone that wants crossover or that he's gonna work with is gonna do the Crossworld series, and I'd like things like that. The little like the CG Vacation book where you have like characters, added in to like the big group and stuff. I think that helps. But I think part of it is that at some point you have to like build an IP, and then you have to let go of the reins a little bit and let other people help you with things, whether it's side stories, ash cans, or if it's like a side character. Maybe it's not the main character, but they like your side character you developed, and they can help you write a side story, and it's something that continues the continuity. Or draw whatever it is, you know what I mean? Like switch out the roles of whatever it is that you do, because you guys multiple things. But
the crossover thing is super interesting to me. I just don't really know, like, because a lot of people's books take place. It's almost like the Image thing, right? Like where they would do things to connect books. Like Savage Dragon would be eating a hot dog in the background on this Wetworks book, right? Yeah. Or like Spawn is watching a television in the Savage Dragon comic, you know, in the early issues. Like he and the kids are talking about Dragon, and he's like pissed off that he thought someone recognized him as Spawn, you know. So they do those weird little fringe crossover. It's not a crossover; it's like a cameo, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you see that kind of stuff, but it's not really like pertinent to a storyline. You know what I mean? I'm just thinking we give the big two a lot of grief about that, like with the crossovers, like Superman Alien crossover way back. People were pissed because they're like, nothing happened. It was just Superman fighting Alien, Xenomorphs, and there was no viable threat. There was nothing that happened that changed an aspect of the story in the continuity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe if there was some focus on that on a crossover where like something new is introduced that changes the perspective of a character and then changes them from there on out, right? Like
let's go back to bookmarks. Everybody just needs bookmarks. Well, gentlemen, this has been a great evening, but we have been going on for about 2.5 hours now. Is there any final words, gentlemen, like to share before we get out of here?
Well, my campaign finishes tonight, and I just want to thank CG because it's been cool.
All right. Well, shout out Punk. I did drop a link for yours and the Ragetality campaign in the chat. It's also in the description. So if you see this today before like midnight hits, go ahead and hit that up. Is that East Coast or West Coast midnight?
East Coast, yeah.
Oh, yes. We're getting there close. So you got about 15 minutes.
Yeah. Right.
Are you sure it's not West Coast? On IndieGoGo, it's usually 3 p.m. East Coast.
Oh, is it?
I mean, 3 a.m. East Coast, yeah.
I didn't know that. It could
so you might have 3 more hours.
Right.
But yeah, once we get off here, I'll share it out. Too.
Well, I'm an Outcast Owl, and 216A is an Outcast Owl, and he made this lovely song for our channel and to help support us all. He's a great man. If you like independent rap music, go check him out. He's a Cleveland rapper. With that, everyone have a great evening. Oh, and catch Amanda B here with me, but also catch her on she's on the chat with Danger Vanessa's channel, and then you're also doing your channel, Chaotic Grace, where she goes over and reviews books, Jim, and then there's another one, isn't there? Got one more.
Uncorked, the first Friday.
Uncorked, first Friday of the month. There we go. Goodstuff Comixgator's channel. I'm 24 Eyes. We are the Outcast Owls on this channel. Everyone have a good evening.
Have a good night, guys.
Yeah. Outcast Owls. We out here, Skeletors of God. Lucifer. Yeah, 24. And many more. Bitch, we don't play no shit, and I'm toxic. Heart full of pain, I was made by the nonsense. No cops, ain't nobody finna stop shit. Welcome to the land, motherfucker, we obnoxious. We don't play no shit, and I'm toxic. Heart full of pain, I was made by the nonsense. No cops, ain't nobody finna stop shit. Welcome to the land, motherfucker, we obnoxious. It's like I'm waking up from a bad dream. Negative thoughts flow, it's a bad stream. I'm anticipating the day when revenge comes to fruition. I'm still stuck in my way. You were lame if you ain't fucking with Zane. I'll drop an EP just to keep all my haters at bay. If you're sleeping, I ain't sorry that I'm not your cup of tea. Outcast owls watching, don't you ever come for me. Senator 24, Lucifer is with me. Put a hater on blast if he acting shifty. 100 in the chat, yeah, it's humbling. All up in your biz like a bumblebee. Your career tumbling. I'm passing the ball and they started fumbling. I'm passing the mic and they started mumbling. You want it done right, do it yourself. And you can meet me by the lake. Snake River is hell, let's go. He don't play no shit and I'm tired.